Hi there, welcome to this solo AAR. This is another game of Chain of Command, which is fast becoming one of my favourite games. And in this game I'm playing the Malaya 1942 Pint-Sized campaign from the Too Fat Lardies. I think it's the 2012 Christmas special. If not, I'll put the description for it in the in the description below. This is obviously a Malayan campaign, so that suits me perfectly because I've got a lot of Malayan figures. This is a Japanese attack on Australian positions, so we're going to be using the Australians today against the Japanese Imperial Army as they try to make their way down towards a bridge where a village is. This first scenario is the patrol phase. I've set up the table. It's literally a road running through a defile of two hills on either side, very simple, with thick jungle thinning out towards the road itself. I've also done the patrol phase already, so I've set that all up. The Allies, the Australians, have got a couple of points, jumping off points, one here, two behind these hills here, and the Japanese are a little bit further back. There's one in the jungle, there's one behind the bushes over there and there as well. So the Australians have managed to push forward a little further than the Japanese did. I'm going to try to make this into a bit of a series. I'll see how I go, but I'll try to play out as many of these games as possible because I've been wanting to do a campaign for Chain of Commands just to see how the campaign rules work. Again, I shall also put a link for those in the description below so you can check those out at the sharp end. And really that's probably as much as I need to say about it. What I'll do now is I'll show you the board, though you've pretty much already seen it. It's pretty much jungle and hills, and then we'll have a look at some of the forces involved and go from there. So this is our table. The Japanese, as I said, are coming in from this end. There's basically a single track road running all down the centre with thick jungle either side, these hills here in the centre here, and the Japanese, show you their jumping off points. So we've got one behind this bush here, we have another one in the jungle itself, that's probably their furthest forward one, and then they have a third again behind this bush over here. The Australians, on the other hand, are pushed slightly further forward. They managed to get two of their patrol jumping off points up to behind this this large defile here, so that's not too bad for them. That's quite good point to get into positions for defence. And they also have one last one here all the way back basically at the road itself. So that is the table. This is what they're going to be fighting over, and I'll show you the units that are going to be fighting now. So these are the Australians. We have basically four sections. Their support options, they paid for a fourth section. Normally they'd only have three, but these are made up of 5 riflemen, 1 submachine gunner, a junior leader, and a 3-man Bren gun team. So that's each of those are all the same. 4 of them. They also have a 2-man boys anti-tank rifle team and a 2-man 2-inch mortar team as well. And of course they have their commanding officer, senior leader, and his second in command there as well. So the Australians, I gave them that extra section because it's quite a small unit really overall, this little platoon, so it's better just to have that little bit extra manpower, just because I know that the Japanese are large sections. But let's have a look at theirs and you'll see what I mean. The Japanese are slightly bulkier than the Australians. Each of their sections is made up of 9 riflemen, 1 junior leader, and a 4-man LMG team. So that's those for the 3 there. They only have 3 sections. However, they also have a 4-man 60mm mortar, knee mortar section, and that has 3 mortars in it, each with 4 crew and a junior leader. So that's another section altogether there. And they also have their junior leader, their second in command and their senior leader here. They also have, for their support, they only rolled a 1 on their support options, so they went for a 3-man engineer team. It's probably going to be not a great load of use in this particular scenario, but it's 3 extra rifles at least. So as I say, there's a lot of Japanese infantry. They've also got a little bit of firepower with their mortars. So let's just see how they get on in the game, shall we? Okay, a couple of special rules which I will try to remember throughout the game. The Australians are stubborn, so they can ignore shock in close combat. The Japanese have the Neo Bushido rules, which basically gives them a +1 on their force morale. They rolled a 2, which became a 3, so that means they have a 9. The Australians, unfortunately for them, rolled a 1, so they're starting with an 8 on their morale. The Japanese also get a -1 automatically on the Bad Things Happen table when they're rolling on that because of those. But we're starting with the Japanese. Everybody's rolling 5 dice at the start. So let's see what we get. So we've got 6. On its own does nothing. We've got senior commander, and 2 1s. Well, that's not a great start really for the Japanese, but they might be able to probably turn those into a section and at least bring a section on. One more thing is the Japanese can actually move, because they're jungle fighters, up to 9 inches away from any of their jumping off points. So they get a little bit of a jump to push forward if they need to. Okay, so let's have a look and see what they do. So the Japanese turned their 2 1s into a 2 to bring on this section, just your bog standard section. They brought it on one of their further back jumping off points on the edge by this defile. The basic aim is they want to probably shut down these Australian jumping off points, these 2 at the front here, so the thrust might be towards those to try to destroy the Australian morale from that point of view. We'll see how we go with that. So it's the Australians' first turn, and they have got a 6, which we know does nothing on its own, a 4 senior leader, 3 junior commander, another 3 junior commander, and a 2 as well. So that's a section, 2 junior commanders and a senior leader. That's a far better spread than the Japanese got, and they'll probably be able to bring quite a bit on with that, so 3 of the sections at least. So we'll get those on the table. So that phase turned out pretty well for the Australians. What they did, they brought on a section here. They used their section to move these guys on, who are going to try to secure that flank. There is a Japanese jumping off point up that end, so they will be watching that. They've also brought on 2 junior leaders with 2 sections. They got these guys up onto the hill, onto the defile itself, put them both on overwatch, so they're now watching for those Japanese to come. And also watching over that road if there's any movement as well. And they also brought on their sergeant, their second in command, as the senior leader. So he's between the 2 units here, so he will be there to help out if anything is needed. So pretty good position straight away for the Australians, but let's see how the rest of the game plays out. Okay, so Japanese, they need some good rolls for this one. So what have we got? It's not great. It's not terrible though. So they've got 2 1s, 2 2s, and a 4. So that's a senior leader, possibly 2 sections or 2 junior leaders. So we'll have a think about that. It's quite a reasonable spread. So the Japanese turned their dice into 3 sections and a junior leader. A senior leader. They basically got 1 section on here to meet the Australian threat that's advancing on that flank. They've also brought on another section over here to support the section that was already on the table, which is now pushed forward towards the top of this hill. They haven't been shot at by the Australians because they're still in cover behind the rise of the hill. They've also brought on a senior leader as well to help support this particular attack when it goes in. So that's their sergeant as well. So not bad. No firing yet, but that'll probably soon change. Maybe in the Australians' turn, but let's see. Let's see what the Australians can get in their turn. We have 6, means nothing on its own. 2 senior commanders, a junior leader, and a section. So not a bad spread. That means at least they could probably bring on another section. So the Australians have used their section, dice to move forward this section. They're just starting to get into that jungle. It's very thick. They're taking 2 off each of their dice for movement, so they were only able to move 4 inches forward. But what they did is use the junior commander dice, their 3, to bring on another section, their final section, and put these on overwatch again at the base of this hill, because we know there's a Japanese attack imminent. So I'm trying to pack that around the jumping off points as much as possible. And we've left off the senior commander because there's still a couple of teams to bring on as well. So I don't want him on just yet because it's going to be more difficult for the other teams to come onto the table, the support stuff. So that's it for the Australians' turn. Again, not a great deal of fighting, but they're just trying to get into a good position. Japanese. Let's see what they get. 2 5s. So that's 2 chain of command dice. That's the first one of the game. So that's a good start for them. So that's them on 2. 2 senior commanders and a junior leader. Again, that's not too bad actually, because they've already got 1 senior commander on the table, so he can probably command a couple of units to do something. So let's see what they do with those anyway. Okay, I told you there was going to be some firing. The Japanese have used their 2 senior commanders roles. They brought on their senior commander himself, the overall commander. They used their junior dice roll, junior leader dice roll, to bring on the mortar section. So they've arrived. They've also got a second senior commander dice over here, which I'm going to decide what to do with once this little action has happened. So these are all on. The Japanese only have 1 team off table at the moment, and that's the engineers. It's only a 3-man rifle team, so there's probably not much. They're not really going to swing the battle either way, so I wanted to get this out of the way. Now these have appeared, they can fire immediately, so they are going to, and they're firing their 4 knee mortars at the Australians that they can see, who are in overwatch, who will then be able to fire back at them. So let's see what happens. These are firing, because they're firing with direct line of sight, they're in range just. They only need to hit on a 4, 5 or a 6 because their class has been close. So we'll roll these, and then the Australians are actually in the open over there as well. The little bit of jungle terrain that they're on is just hard going. It's not actually cover. So let's see, 4, 5s and 6s. That's a cocked dice, but it's rolled onto a 2. So we'll get rid of our misses. This is actually not as good as it could have been. Out of 12 dice, they've only hit with 3. So 5, 6 is a kill. 3, 4 is a pin. So let's see what happens. So that's 2 kills and 1 nothing. There is a junior leader in that team, in that section. So they see if he's hit on a 1 or a 2. No, he hasn't been hit. But the Australians over there have taken 2 casualties. And then they get to fire back. So the Australians are firing back with 11 dice. That's their LMG and a few rifles. 1, 2, 3, 5 rifles. So they're firing at effective range. They need 5s and 6s to hit. So let's see if they do better than the Japanese. Get rid of the misses. That's 2 hits. So they are, let's see, these Japanese are again in the open, so 5, 6s kills. So 1 kill and 1 nothing, no effect. And see who it is, if it's their junior leader, a 1, and it is. No, it isn't, so it's just one of their team members. So one of those is off. So now what we'll do is we'll have a think about what the Japanese want to do with their other senior commander, whether he wants to attack at this point or not. The Australians on Overwatch have now come off Overwatch, so that may make his mind up, but we'll see what happens. Right, so the Japanese, you know, glory doesn't wait for the man. The commander has basically urged this section forward, so they've got up onto the top of the hill. The Australians in Overwatch will be firing at them, with this amount of dice, but what he's doing is knocking off their Overwatch. They've still got this section down here that the commander can shift forward. He's moved himself forward, so he's used 2 of his 3 command initiatives, and then they have 1 more, so they will probably try to get this section round, this flank, to fire on the Australians without getting fire themselves. Long story short, these are being sacrificed for the greater good. We need to get down to Singapore as soon as possible. So I've done a toto. This is the amount of rifles and LMGs. They're all firing at close, so they're rolling on a 4, 5 or a 6 to hit. We've got 2 SMGs in there as well, and the Australians are also allowed to re-roll half of their SMGs if they have a miss. So I'm going to do those separately because they're at long range anyway. So we'll do these first of all. This is for the rifles and the LMG, and we're talking 4, 5s and 6s are hits. So we'll remove all the misses. That was a miss. It was in my hand. That's a lot of hits. So we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 hits. Let's just see if the SMGs hit. Just put those to one side for a second. So as I said, we've got 2 of these. I'll roll each of these individually because they can re-roll up to half of them. So we're looking at 5s and 6s for these. So the first one, he's missed, so he rolls again on 1. So that's another hit. And then the second SMG, that's 1 hit. He also gets to re-roll up to half. So he will re-roll that one. So that's 1 hit. That's 2 hits. So in total we're looking now at 12 hits on that Japanese section. So they are in the open. On top of that defile, there's no cover there. So we're looking at 5, 6s are kills. And 3, 4 are shock. So we'll get rid of all the 1s and 2s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 misses. 1, 2, 3 shock. So I'll just get that put down first of all, so we remember. And 4 kills. So let's see if their junior leader is one of the killed. No, he's not. He's okay. But 4 other infantry are. So that's going to be 2 off the LMG section and 2 off the normal section. So we'll take that guy away. Sorry, he's the wrong one. That's the junior leader. So him. Sorry, it was 4 kills, wasn't it? So it's 2 on the LMG section and then 2 normal rifles. Let's just get those covered up. So really there should be 1 shock on the LMG team and then also 2 shock on the rest of the section, but they are fighting together as a section, but we'll just keep them together for now so we know what they've got. So that was the Australians shooting. Their Overwatch now comes off. So that's kind of what the Japanese were wanting to do. The Japanese will then fire back with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 rifles, and the LMG, 7 rifles but -1 because of the shock. So their LMG is only firing at half its effectiveness because they're down to 2 crew on that. Sorry, no, they've still got 2 crew on it, so that can still fire at 6. And the shock on the LMG team isn't affecting their firing dice, so that's another 6. So let's see how many hits they have on the Australians. And these are hitting on a 4, 5 or a 6 as well. So we're looking for 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 hits. That's not bad actually after taking that many kills. So let's just see what that does. This is going to be spread across the Australians. So we'll see. That's not a great deal actually. They're in the open, so it's only 2 shock on the Australians. So they've got off pretty lightly there. I don't know if that's a blunder by the Japanese or if it was a correct tactic, but it's what they've done. So basically we've got, I'm going to put one shock over here on this section, and then another one shock on this section over here. And that is that little bit of a firefight. So we've still got another, commander can still get the other section to do something, and he will do, he'll get them to move, so I'll get that done off camera, and we'll come back to it when there's more firing. Okay, all the Japanese did actually was just move forward, but they used two dice, movements of dice, so they couldn't actually fire when they got around there, but they are now at least positioned to fire that section on that end there. So relatively successful. I'm not sure, the Japanese took a lot of hits there, taking 4 kills, but they have caused a bit of shock on the Australians, and they've got themselves into a position where they can now fire at the Australians at least in a turn. Plus they've also got their mortars over here able to fire in. So we'll see how this pans out. Because it's a campaign, kind of really want to be careful a little bit of the casualties that they're taking. Right, now we see what the Australians can do. Let's roll those dice. 2 5s, so that's 2 on their chain of command dice. And they have a 1, 2 and a 3. So that's junior leaders, or even a senior leader, they could combine that on section or a team. The Australians combined the 3 and a 1 into a 4, and then their their second in command, sergeant here, is commanding all 3 of these sections, and they are all firing at this single section here in front of them. This is 32 dice from the rifles and from the LMGs. They're in the open, short range, 4, 5, 6 as the hits. Then they've also got their SMGs as well, so let's just see what we do with that. Oh god, so that's a lot. We're looking at 4, 5s and 6s. What I'm trying to do here is absolutely destroy that section, because if they do, it means they're rolling on the bad things happen table. So how many hits is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And then we've also got the SMGs. We've got 3 of those. Let me just put these dice together here, and we'll add these in. And again, any misses they can re-roll. So we're looking at 4, 5s, and 5s and 6s this time. So for the first one, so that's 1 hit anyway, and they can re-roll up to half. Nope. Second one, so that's 1 hit and a re-roll. No. Well, so far it's still 2 extra hits, and then the last SMG, 2 misses, so they'll get to re-roll 1, which is also a miss as well. But 2 more hits in there, so that's what, 19 I think we said. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, yes, 19 hits. So in the open, 5, 6 is the kills, 3, 4 is shock. Let's see how many are left after this roll. Right, get rid of the 1s and the 2s. 1, 2, 3, 4 haven't affected anything. Shock, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 shock in total. So let me get that down so I remember. That's on top of the 3 that they already have, so they're now on 12. I'm going to merge this together because I think this will probably break the unit. Well, I'm fairly certain it will, so that's 6 and 6, and take away the 3 that they had. And we also lose 6 casualties in that, so that will be the remainder of the team and 4 more infantry. So there's 1 there, and 3 there. Well, there's 6 casualties, so 1 of them is going to be the junior leader actually, so I'll just put back 1 individual figure. So the junior leader, on a 1 he's killed, a 2 or 3 he's wounded and can't do anything for the rest of the turn, 5 or a 6, 4, 5 or a 6 he's lightly wounded and is reduced for 1 command initiative. So let's just have a look. So that's him wounded, so he's now down onto 2 command initiatives. However, that section has most definitely broken, so they will retreat, but also they get to roll on the bad things happen table. But it's because of their Japanese national characteristic, they get a -1 on this, but they are rolling a section broken first of all. So let's see what that is. 1, 0, so that doesn't count. And the other one is their leader, a junior leader, is wounded. 5 becomes a 4, so that's -1 point on their force morale, so they're down to 8 now, and they will have to retreat as well. What remains of that section. Good shooting there from the Australians. Right, well, let's see if the Japanese can exact revenge for that massive hit in casualties it took. So 1 chain of command point, so they're now on 3. We have a 1, 2 senior leaders, a 2, a 1, a 2 and 2 4s. A reasonable spread. Okay, so the Japanese have split up their dice. The section in the woods has moved forwards under their junior commander. They combined the 2 and the 1 into a junior commander. The senior commander over here has reduced their shock by 2, and then his third and final initiative will be to get these to fire at that section they can see down the side of the defile there, so we'll do that in a second. But first of all, the senior commander over here, the officer, is commanding the mortar teams to fire. I made a mistake, they're only rolling 3 dice each. I rolled too many dice in the first instance when these first fired, when they appeared, but it's not going to make much difference at this point. So they're only rolling 9 dice, but they're firing as though they're in close range, so 4, 5, 6 are hits. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits on the Australians there, so we'll see what that does. And that's just on this section here on the edge. That is 4 nothings and 1 shock. So not a great result. Not compared to what the Australians just did to the Japanese. So that's their 1 shock there. I'll show that in a second. And then we have on the other side of the hill, we have the Japanese rifles and LMG all firing at this section here, or what they can see, the ones with all the shock on. Again, effective range in the open, 4, 5, 6 are hits. So we're getting rid of all our misses, and there's a lot of them. So that's 5 hits. So in the open, 5, 6 are kills. So that's 1 kill and 3 shock. So again, not a fantastic result, but they have killed some. They may have killed the junior commander there, so 1 and he is. No, so it's just one of the normal rifle guys, so I'll take this one off. And then they take another 3 shock. So then I'm on 4. But they're still okay. Let's continue on. So back to the Australians again. Let's see what we've got. We've got a 2 5s, so that's 2 chain of command dice. That was a 3 there, so I knocked it over. So that's chain of command points, should I say. So that's up to 4 now. Senior commander and 2 junior commanders. So that's actually not too bad. That's quite a good spread again for the Australians. Probably just what they need at this point to try to finish off another Japanese section. But let's see how we go. So the first Australian junior commander, the 3, is these guys in the woods. They're firing at the Japanese as they advance on them. Their rifles and their LMG are all here, so we'll see what they get. They need 4, 5s and 6s to hit. So they're all misses, so that's actually 5 hits. That's pretty healthy. They've also got an SMG firing at 5 or a 6 to hit with that re-roll. So it can re-roll one of them, and that's another hit. So that is 6 hits in total, but the Japanese are in heavy cover, so it's a 6 is a kill, 5 is shock. And what they got? So they got 1 kill and 2 shock. Let's see if that kill is on their junior leader. No, it's not. So it's just one of the... I'll take one of the units off, and then 2 shock. The Australians have used their other junior commander, junior leader, to reduce the shock on this team down to 2 from 4. They've also used their senior commander, the sergeant, to activate these 3 sections. 2 of them, this one has moved forward 1 dice, and they are now firing down onto the Japanese down there. And we've also got this section firing over there as well. So all in all, let's see what they get. We're looking for 4, 5s and 6s because they're close. And that's quite a lot of hits. And the Japanese are in the open, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 hits on those. Still got the SMGs to do as well, so let's do those first of all. There's 2 SMGs there, so 5s and 6s for these. The first one, can re-roll one of those dice, no. And for the second SMG, same again, 5 or a 6, no. Can re-roll, so no. So the SMGs haven't hit anything. But 5s and 6s are kills, 3, 4 shock. So let's see what we got. Not a great result after all. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 misses, 2 kills, and 4 shock. Put that 4 shock on them first of all. So that's there. And then 2 kills, one of which may be the junior leader. Let's see, under a 2, and it is. No, it's not. So just 2 of the rifles. So there's 1. And their second kill is there. And the Australians are now firing. This remains of this unit are now firing over at the mortars, the Japanese mortars over there. So they've got their LMG and 5 rifles. So they've had their SMG guy taken out. So that's all they've got. There's no reduction for the shock, and they've not moved. So this is 5s and 6s because they're at effective range now. So 1, 2. It's not so bad actually after all. So that's 4 hits in the open. 2 kills. 2 kills, 2 shock. So we'll give them the 2 shock first of all, and see if the junior leader is one of the killed. Yes, he's hit. So what happens to him? 1, he's killed outright. 3, he is wounded until the end of the turn. Right, let's see what the Japanese can do. Probably not a great deal, but might be able to pull something out of the hat. Okay, so they've got 1 chain of command points. So that takes them up to 4. They've got 3 senior commanders and 1 junior commander. So, well, they can do stuff with that. So let's have a think about what they can do. Right, their junior commander, junior leader, has reduced the shock on this section, and they will now be firing at the Australians here. And they are hitting on 4, 5s and 6s. The Australians are in heavy cover. Let's get rid of our misses. There's quite a lot of hits, but they need 6s to kill, 5 for shock. Let's see what we get out of this. Get rid of anything that isn't anything. So that's 1 kill, 3 shock. See if that 1 kill is on their officer. No, it's not, so it's just one of the normal blokes. And 3 shock. Right, on this side of the table we've got the Japanese knee mortars. They're going to be firing again. They've had their shock reduced by the senior commander. So 4, 5, 6 are hits here. And that's 3 hits. And they're in the open. 5, 6 are kills. So that's just 2 shock on that team there. So that takes them up to 3. Then we have the Japanese rifles on this side. They are again being the shock has been reduced by their senior commander over here, and then he's also ordering them to fight. So they have 1, 2, 8 rifles and an LMG, but -1 because of their shock. So let's get the 8 rifles together. So the 8 rifles, -1. And then the LMG is another one. So let's see what that does. These are 4, 5, 6s to hit. So we got 1, 2, get rid of the misses. So we're looking at 2, 4, 6 hits. Oh no, that's a miss. 5 hits on those Australians in the open. And that's 2 kills, 1 shock. Quickly put that shock on there so I remember. And then 2 kills, one of which may be their leader. Yes, it is. So let's see what happens to him. 1 is killed outright. 3 is he is wounded until the end of the turn. So he's killed, and 1 other soldier. Okay, Australians again. 6 does nothing alone. 5 gives them a chain of command dice. So now on 5. And 2 sections, and a junior leader or a senior leader. Right, the junior commander has reduced shock down to 2, and then he's getting the team to fire. So they're going to fire with these, and then they've got their SMG as well. So let's have a look. We're looking at 4, 5s and 6s, and that is 5 hits. The Japanese are in cover. 6 is kill, 5 is shock. So that's 2 more shock on the Japanese here. That takes them up to 3. And I'll just do the SMG. So he's firing 2 dice. And same again, 4, 5, 6. 5, 6s are hits on this one. No, so he gets to re-roll 1. Yes, he's hit. So we re-roll that, and that is nothing because they're in cover. So in the battle on the hill, the senior commander, sergeant, basically commanded everybody to activate. These 2 again firing at that section down there, and these are going to fire down the mortars in a second, but we'll do the section firing first of all. And we're looking at 4, 5s and 6s. So this is just the rifles and the LMGs, and I'll come back and do the SMGs. So that's lots and lots of hits there. So how many is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 hits. So let's have a look at these SMGs. These are hitting on 5s and 6s. First one, that's 1 hit. They can re-roll 1, so that's 2 hits. And the second one, no hits, so the re-roll 1, that's another hit. So that's taking it up to 15, I think. 5, 10, 15 hits, yeah. So they're in the open. 5, 6s are kills. I don't think this is going to be very nice for the Japanese. Let's get rid of anything that isn't anything. And yeah, it's quite a lot of shock and kills. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 shock, 6 kills. Okay, so that means that their junior leader has been hit. Let's see what happens to him. 5, he is wounded, and he takes 1 off his initiative. So let's just do that while I remember. And 5 others are casualties. So that's going to be basically all the LMG team and those 2 there. And then they also have another 6 shock on top of the 3 shock that they already have. So that's now taken them up to 9, which is not enough to break them just yet, because they've got 6, 7 figures in that unit and 9 shock. So they are pinned, but they're not broken yet. They do have to do a bad things happen roll though, because their junior leader has been hit. This comes with a -1 because of their national characteristics. So 2 becomes a 1. A 1 is no effect. And then for the Australians, 3rd activation from their senior commander. These are firing down at the the mortar guys over there. So 5 6s are hits because they're at effective range. So that's 4 hits, but they are in the open. So that has killed 1 and 2 shock. There is also a junior leader in there, so let's see if he's one of the ones that is hit. No, he's not. So it's just one of the soldiers. That guy this time. And then 2 shock. And back to the Japanese. With what little they have. 6 does nothing. So we got senior commander, and 2 sections. Okay. Okay, the Japanese use their section to rush into close assault with the Australians here. So this is the Japanese dice. They need 5s and 6s. 6 is a kill, 5 is shock. So let's see what they get. Not a great many, actually. 1, 2, 4. So that's 4 shock plus 2 kills. So we'll just keep that to one side for a second. The Australians are rolling a lot more dice because they are defending heavy cover because they're in the jungle, and they've got an LMG and the Japanese moved in against them. So let's see what we get here. So there again, 5s and 6s. That one's cocked, so I'll just re-roll that. So that's another 5, so get rid of everything that isn't a 5 and a 6. It's probably actually easier to get the 5s and 6s out, but let's just see. Looks like the Australians are winning this one. So that is 2, 4, 7 against 4. So the Australians have won it 7 against 4. So that's 7 kills on the Japanese, 4 on the Australians, and the Japanese also take 2 shock. So let's just work out what the difference is. They are defeated by 3. So that means the Japanese run away 12 inches, and both teams take an extra 2 points of shock on each team, and there's 2 teams in the Japanese one. The Australians can actually ignore shock they can ignore the shock results as part of the close combat because they're stubborn, but they still take 4. Sorry, they still take 2 and lose 4 men. Let's see if one of those is their leader. No, it's not. So it's 4 of the normal guys, and the LMG team is now down to 1. And they can ignore the shock that was caused by the close assault, so that doesn't affect them in this turn, so it doesn't matter anyway, the Japanese are running away. So let's work out the Japanese and what happens to them. So they get 2 points of shock on each team, so that's 2 for their LMG team and then also 2 for their rifles. They also take another 2 shock, so that's going to be 6 on those, and then another 1 on the rifle team. So now they've got 9 shock in total in there, and they've also lost 7 men as well, one of which could be their leader. Well, we'll see what happens to him. 1 is killed, 2, 3 wounded for the turn, 4 he is wounded and reduced in his shock, so that's going to be a bad things happen roll. And as I said, we lose 6 other figures, so that's going to be spread between them, so that means that the LMG team is off, but that shock is still part of them, so they now are also, there's 7 men in that team against 9 shock, so they're not broken just yet. They're close, but yeah, so they've got to retreat 12 inch. So pretty bad that, pretty poor showing there for the Japanese. Okay, on this portion of the table, the Japanese have decided that they are starting to withdraw I'm going to try to get them off table. They've pulled back using one of the senior commander's initiatives. He's managed to get them closer to this jumping off point, and all they're going to do is fire the two remaining thingies over here, the two remaining mortars, and they're hitting on 4, 5, 6s. So that's 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 hits, and they're in the open. So that's 2 kills and 1 shock. See if it is their junior leader. No, it's not. So 1 extra shock on them and 2 kills. And back to the Australians. So they have 2 6s, so they actually retain the phase, which is terrible for the Japanese, just not what they needed. That gives them another chain of command points, so they now have 6. And a 3 and a 2 is a junior commander and a section. So we'll spread those about and see what we can do with those. Okay, the Australians are now pursuing the Japanese as they're retreating down this bluff. The 2 sections have moved forward using that. The junior commander has basically reduced the amount of shock on that team, but that section, and then the other section used their normal dice. So they're all firing down at the Japanese. So this is the rifle and LMGs, and we're just going to spread this across the Japanese because they're all so close together. So we're looking at 4, 5s and 6s. I've already halved this, the amount of dice rolling, because they've moved. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7 hits. And then we've also got the SMGs as well. And we've got 4 of those, but we're halving it because they've moved. So they're only rolling 1 dice. They can't re-roll this because they can only roll half of their dice. There isn't half of 1 dice. So 5, 6, that's another hit. And the other one, 5, 6, that's a miss. So that's 8 hits in total. As I say, spread across there. There's 2 section leaders and a senior commander there as well. So let's see what happens. So that's a 6, so that's a kill. They're in the open. 5, 6s are kills. 4, 5s are shock. 3, 4s are shocks. So that's 1 shock. So that will go on. It doesn't really matter at this point. Let's put it on these ones. On a 10. So that is them broken. Well, I'll tell you what, because that's so critical at this point, let's roll the dice and see which section it goes on to. 1 to 3 them, 4 to 6 them. So it is them needing to roll them. So that is 10. They've got 10. So that section is then broken. So that's a bad things happen table. But we've also got 2, 4, 6, 7 hits. So 3 of those actually are going to be on the section leaders. 1, 2 and 3, and then 4 on the other rifles. So 2 on this section, 2 on this section. Just put those on to remind me. And then we've got to see if what happens to the particular leaders. God, they've taken a hit there. And there's still another round of Australian activation after this, so that's them done. And I take off that single figure. And so let's see what happens to each of these leaders. So first of all, it's the junior leader who's already wounded. 1, he's killed. 2, 3, he's out until the end of the turn. 4, 5, 6, he's killed. So 4, 5, 6, he is taken out. He's got 2 wounds. The overall commander, 6, he has taken 1 wound. And finally, the last one, he has been killed. So he is out completely. And they're going to have to roll on the bad things happen table. This team is broken and routed, so they are off. The other one is 1, 2, 3, 4 in there, and they are also broken and routed as well. So we've had 2 leaders killed, 1 senior commander killed, and 2 sections routed. So this is going to be a bad things happen. So let's work our way down it. So section breaks, first of all, they do get a -1 on this. So for the first one, it's a 4. So that is -2 points straight away. So they're down to 6. The second section, -1 again, remember. So 3 is section breaks, that's another 2 points, so they're down to 4. I don't think they're going to get through this, if we're honest. We've got a senior leader wounded, so let's have a look at that. A 1 becomes a 0, so that's nothing, so that's okay. But we have got 2 junior leaders killed. So let's just check those. Both of these got -1. So that's 5 and 5. Junior leader killed. That's -4 points. They had 4 points. That means the Japanese have just hit 0 and it's game over. So the Japanese failed to break the Australian lines. Right, well, the Japanese morale has collapsed. The last remaining units here were falling back towards their jumping off points, but they got scuppered by the Australians, who pushed forward and basically shot the crap out of them down there. That was really the thing that pushed it over the edge. There's barely any Australian casualties, really. In the overall scheme of things, these guys took quite a battering from the 60mm mortars over here. And over here, this section was quite badly reduced as well by the Japanese section here, who has now been pushed back. They were falling back as well towards their jumping off point, so they could withdraw if they'd have managed to get another turn in. So what went wrong for the Japanese attack? Hard to say, really. I think it was this big lump of a hill over here which was the issue. The first move was the problem. They only were able to bring on that one section. Had they been able to push a lot more sections onto the table and maybe even push their jumping off points further forward than they did, they may have been in a better position. This means that the Japanese commander, this poor fella here, will commit seppuku for the dismal failure. And in this scenario, or in this campaign, the Japanese actually get a brand new section, brand new platoon that comes in on the next game. So the Australians don't get any reinforcements. They don't get any replacements until the third scenario, if they win 1 or 2 scenarios. They've won 1, so they will get reinforcements at least. But the next scenario, the Japanese are going to be another fresh platoon against what remains of the Australians at this point. And as I say, the Australians lost 10 soldiers, so about a quarter of their strength is already down. The next scenario, the Japanese will probably try to push through the jungle on either side of the road rather than pushing down the road again. But that's something we'll play in the future. Stay tuned for it. If you've enjoyed this, I enjoyed playing it. Another great game of Chain of Command. Really, really good fun as usual. Please drop me a subscribe. Give the video a like. Tell your friends, tell your family, and look out for the next part in this Malaya Pint-Sized campaign. Thanks for watching.